Hi, welcome back to Silicon Beach Radio. I'm your host, Callum Pope, and today I'm joined very luckily by the guys from GetWorm, or two of the founders from GetWorm anyway, and they'll tell us about the group of four that came together and put GetWorm together and where it is now. So I just wanted to introduce Sartek Moke and Eddie Sejuam. Did I get that right, Eddie?
Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Great, thanks for joining us, guys. And so, look, you've been a major sponsor for Melbourne Silicon Beach for quite some time now, which of course everybody really appreciates. And so I just wanted to ask you a little bit about how you both came to Melbourne Silicon Beach, and then what the experience has been like, because you've kind of grown up in a way, I think, with Atula and I through that whole experience. So I just wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Melbourne Silicon Beach has been great, and I think the moment we thought about GetWorm, we were looking at avenues to meet startups and meet early adopters, and there could not have been a better avenue than Melbourne Silicon Beach, because it is the biggest, probably the second biggest at the moment in Melbourne. So yeah, it was a natural thing to do, and it's been great. We've had a blast there every time we go, every month. It's, yeah, I would say and obviously we get a chance to meet you. So that was phenomenal.
I think for me, one of my favourite pictures at Melbourne Silicon Beach was both of you pitching. You both had a couple of beers.
Yeah, well, it's not so much the beers, but the thing is, it caught us completely off guard.
Yeah.
It was our first time at Melbourne Silicon Beach.
Yeah.
We just showed up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the regular sort of pitch thing. You had the girls from that startup show, and they were going to award $250 worth of coaching and an audience favorite. So that got us up there. And I said, "Oh, let's do the I'm a startup and I'm an early adopter."
Yeah.
And went up there, and everybody liked it, and we won the audience favorite.
Yeah, that was a spur of a moment, and
It was a fantastic night. Were we in the dungeon that night?
Yeah.
we were.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
yeah, because I get the nights mixed up sometimes, but I figure I should always remember the nights that I'm in the dungeon, but maybe let's not go there.
No.
So look, that's good, and I know that things have really come a long way for you guys, for GetWorm, certainly over, I guess, recent months. A lot has happened, and I've been on the platform. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been good for me with Eat Magazine, with our free app. We've been able to get some good users as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, because I guess you've got lots of stories from other people that have been using the platform, but before you give us that story, just tell us, what is the platform and what's it about?
So GetWorm is a platform for startups and early adopters. And the way we thought about this platform was, we could see there were some platforms in the market which were promoting startups, but not many were crediting the most important bit, which were who were the early adopters of the program. So you can imagine every year more than 500,000 startups come about, and not many of them, or most of them, would struggle with getting early traction and getting validation from users, getting feedback, and most importantly, getting investment. And only the investment usually comes through getting early adopters and building the platform. And that was the idea, and Eddie and I remember still early last year, we were just sitting in a bar and said, Eddie, we're thinking of this early bird gets the worm, And I said, yeah, why don't we just call it GetWorm? And kind of, we actually looked up a domain name, it was available, and it was available, and at that very bar, we booked the domain name. So we got getworm.com at a bar.
Fantastic. It's a great pub startup story as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so then what happened next for you guys there?
Yeah, so what happened next is what we decided, and what Sartek said. So unlike the startup we were working on previously, which the other co-founder was also involved with, sort of a photo ecosystem thing, it's kind of the genesis of GetWorm. It's like, we were struggling to get the early adopters, and Sartek was, where do we get those early adopters? There wasn't really anything out there. So, but rather than go out and build this massive thing, invest all this time and effort and money, let's just create a expression of interest landing page. So so from that, right away in that same bar, after just registering that name, the path forward will be just create a landing page for expression of interest. And the goal was, we get 100 startups. That's MVP. That means there's interest, and we go and build it. So we weren't going to actually build the full function until we knew there was 100 startups. And that's when we went to Melbourne Silicon Beach, Connect Expo, the Unconvention, and in a very short space of time, 100 startups. And that's when we knew we had to build this.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And just so the listeners understand, you've got a lot more than that now. I mean, I guess more than 10 times that, I guess, at least.
Yeah.
I know that there's probably quite a few more. And so, okay, so that's a really good thing for people to hear. And I guess you've had some challenges along the way. And I suppose one of the challenges was it takes quite a bit of patience and control to actually stick to that 100 idea without running ahead. But you managed to do that successfully.
Yeah, and I think that's the fundamental behind GetWorm, is that we only decided to build something if there was a community, there was a need for it. So
Right.
every time before even we started on building something, we would go out to the community and get feedback on, hey, this is what we are thinking of. What do you think? And once we get the idea validated, we would actually roll it into production. So that was the kind of mentality or attitude and that was a big shift from our original idea when we kept on building the platform that Eddie was talking about for months and months before even opening up to the customers.
Yeah.
We just changed the whole mindset, and that's been working good for us, I would say.
But what Sartex just said in terms of that community, so rather than just say, here's the website and the landing page and just sort of tweet about it or anything, we actually hit the pavement, went and talked to actual people and to actually get real world feedback. Well, this is what we want to build. What do you think? And pretty much the most common reaction is, wow, that is an awesome idea.
Right.
When is it going to be done?
Yeah.
When can I get on there?
Yeah.
And then we say, well, you can sign up on there now. You can put in, sign expression of interest, and that very quickly translated into somehow a global reach. So before we knew it, there's people from other countries, all the way from London to Russia and Canada and the US, people signing up. Because everybody, I guess, very quickly talks to each other on social media. That's why I just signed up on this platform that does this, and at the time, no other platform. I don't think, even now, no other platform does what we do.
No, that's right. I don't think they do. I mean, there are other platforms that try and do similar things but are different, but there's a clunkiness about them that I don't think you have, because I think that you've organically kind of evolved, if I can use that word, in a way.
Absolutely.
And I know that the platform's very easy to use. I always get excited when I get that email that says, I've got a worm. I remember the first time I got one, I was like, I got a worm, I didn't know what that was.
You got a
And I was like, oh, that's right. I remember. That's right. So that was after a big night, of course.
And it's funny you said that because many for the initial part of when we started, people actually thought that early birds were the worm.
Yeah.
But it's not. The worm is the incentive for the early users, early adopters.
Right,
it is the early bird gets the worm adage that we kind of following through.
Yeah.
And it took us a while because in everywhere you hear perks, rewards, but not often you hear worm. And it's kind of have that, I don't know, a kind of disgusting yet, what is it? What is worm?
Yeah.
What are you giving out exactly?
Yeah.
And that's what one of the charms about it, if I will.
Fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, because you've got two other founders who have been working with you on other projects as well.
Yeah.
And, so do you want to just tell us briefly about the other two founders?
Yeah, so we got two great developers / tech founders with us, and Vinny Bhaskar is one of them, he actually came up with the first idea about this photo sharing app,
Right.
the one that we were mentioning.
Yeah.
And that's how, and Vinny and I go a long way back when we were discussing about putting up a first MIDI controller back when DJ MIDI controllers did not even exist.
Okay.
Everyone thought who played music on computer was a dork.
Yeah.
So-
okay, yeah.
Some of them still do.
Yeah.
But then that's how we kind of started. We got in touch with each other, and the second co-founder, he's great, Aditya Moke, and he's my brother.
Yep.
And he's
I thought I
great with-
recognised that name.
yeah, and he's great with all the user interface and the design work that you see. It's all Aditya.
All right, well, look, we're going to try. This is a bit of a trick for a podcast, which I would normally avoid, but we're going to do it. So just so everybody understands, we've got a camera in here today. And so this is a video. We're videoing this interview, and this video is going to go you're sending the video out, is that right? To
Yeah. We would love
or
to
it's going on the website. What's
Yeah,
happening
so it's
with
going to
the
go to the website, it's going to go to YouTube, so we're going to share it through our own channels and broadcast it. So
Okay.
use our own megaphone, so to speak,
Okay.
to let everybody know about both this podcast and our debut on the podcast.
Okay, brilliant. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the platform and we're going to try and describe it in a way for our listeners that maybe won't see the video. So it's going to be an interesting exercise.
Yeah.
So we've got the laptop here, and so we'll give everybody the URL as well at the end, and we'll put it in the notes. But it's getworm.com,
That's
correct?
correct.
So it's a very brilliant landing page, I must admit, with your rocket launching material there. Do you want to just take us briefly through it? Let's go in and give us a look around.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two aspects to GetWorm. There's a producer side of things where the startups, and then there's a consumer. And because when you go onto getworm.com, you are presented with the page for early adopters.
Right.
Now, as it is all about helping a startup and let them love you back. So we started on this Love Thy User, hashtag Love Thy User was our first.
That's right. I remember seeing that flying around Twitter and jumped straight onto it. It was great fun.
Yeah, it was really good actually. So that we kind of had some good luck with that hashtag Love Thy User. People actually liked the idea that this is the first time that people are actually or someone is thinking about the early adopters and the users, not just promoting startups on what they are about. So this is what you would say if you come on GetWorm. You would have how it works and the trending worms on it, so you can see that there are many startups coming up with exciting offers. And as you would see, why would you even care about GetWorm? And this is for the people who get excited about trying new things, who want to see what the new things are, and just like to be appreciated, recognized in some way or the other.
That's right. These are our early adopters, and of course we know that I think the startup ecosystem is big enough now that we are able to support each other in some corners and some aspects. So I found the idea really exciting from that point of view. Okay, so what does it say? Gain access to thousands of early adopters from around the world, which it certainly does, I can tell you that much. So, okay, take us in there and show us about.
So this is the startup page. This is where a startup would come in to
Okay.
know what GetWorm offers besides early adopters. So things like analytics, insights into how are people interacting with their campaign, what are the visits, how many people are clicking, what kind of user segments are there. So that's kind of the analytics platform. The second thing, and what I'll do is I'll probably log in just to quickly show you what the platform is all about. So if I just log in quickly. So here I see this, I'm logged in as an early adopter at the moment. And what I see to my left is the worm feed. Now this is something which we believe is kind of one of its kind. All the platforms out there, they provide what is the latest in tech, latest in photography, latest in music and things like that. What we actually do is we curate these worms based on your interest. So if you're interested in music and fashion, which obviously you are, and we will definitely we will show you, or you would see the worms matching your interest.
Great.
Yeah. And to your right, you can see the activities by other early adopters and startups. So you can see people commenting, people upvoting, liking an idea, sharing it, and things like this. So it's becoming a community of both startups and the users, and that's where this is the worm feed, as we call it.
I must admit, just thinking about it in those early days, I guess, when I first signed up, and I did it in a hurry, and I put up a very quick screenshot, and there were some other screenshots there that were a little bit like me, these sort of hurried sort of things. But now it is just so beautiful. You get in there, and the startups, the way that they're presenting themselves, the way that they put their work together, it's really got a very I don't know how to explain it, but it really has moved on, hasn't it? It's really like, tell us about it, Eddie.
Well, yeah, the thing is, it's always been sort of very critical to us, and Aditya, Sartek's brother, has a very keen sort of eye for style and layout and the whole user experience. And we definitely always wanted to make it a visually pleasing site. And nothing worse, it doesn't matter how many rewards you get if the whole experience is bad and it's a sore for your eyes, you're not going to come back. You might go once and say, you know what, nah, that was just, it was hard
It
to
looked
find.
a bit rough around the edges.
So it was so, you know, back and forth, quite a bit of sort of consulting with our entire group, sort of working together, feedback, what about this, what about that, but we wanted to make sure that the startups, we wanted to help them to showcase their startup.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about. This is your opportunity to make a first impression.
Yeah.
So let's help you make a first impression. We're going to create a beautiful site.
Yeah.
Now we're going to help you also get the right kind of screen grab so it matches up. So our beautiful site showcases your beautiful new idea in the right light, because that's your first impression with your early adopters.
Fantastic. And the other thing I noticed recently, it's very interactive now, isn't it? I mean, in those early days, there was some levels of interaction which you could get involved in, but now it's almost it kind of draws you in. It's very intimidating. I feel like I want to reach out and kind of, you know, I just want to connect with these other startups. It's very interesting.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and that's been the fundamental behind it. So and I think I would say is for the first time we actually started celebrating early adopters. So early adopters were out there. They had their profiles on Facebook and LinkedIn and all the social, but nothing to qualify them or make them stand apart from the rest of the majority.
Right.
This is where they come about. This is where their identity as an early adopter is recognized across the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's a powerful thing.
Actually, do you know what it reminds me of? I was looking at AngelList today, which of course, you know, you get the great mash of investors and the great mash of startups. And I guess, in a way, one of the things I really like about GetOne is that for a lot of early adopters, in a way, they are the early investors. They might not be turning up with 500,000 to put down a deposit, but they are turning up with enthusiasm, and they're turning up with a real want to try things out, and they get involved at that very early level, and I think that's so exciting, isn't it?
It is, and that's what it is. And time is money, and that's what they're giving up. Well, not giving up, that's what they're willing to give. Invest is time. And we believe that's worth some sort of reward. That's a principle, basically. At the end of the day, an early adopter would still be an early adopter even if he didn't get a reward. But to get that reward shows that level of appreciation. You're going to put the time in. You're going to invest your time, like you said, not money, but you're going to invest time.
Yeah.
So
and to add to that, I mean, when we were growing, it's not just about physical rewards in terms of 50% discount or, you know, freebie or here and there. But it is more about recognition, and recognition is what we thought we started about as obviously we have to eat our own dog food. So what we did was, instead of having About Us page as for us, we made the About Us page for our first users.
That's right, I remember that.
So our About Us page first talks about the early adopters that are helping us even exist. So, and then we start about who we are and what we do, and that's how we see the shift in the mindset of startups in terms of we need to focus on getting these or focus more on getting these early adopters and making them happy, because they're worth in gold.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And look, I wanted to ask you, because I know things are changing so rapidly for you. I know that you've just had a massive influx of startups and early adopters, and things have really happened, really ramped up. And so I'm guessing at some stage, because I know at the moment everything's free, is that right?
It is.
And I'm guessing at some stage that's going to change down the track. Would that be right?
Yes, that is right. So that's actually a question that quite a few people have asked since we went live in July last year. Do you plan to monetize? How are you going to monetize? And the first answer we give is that's right now, this is our word to the rest of the startup community, is that for the first 1,000 startups, there is no charge. And then once we reach 1,000, we're working on a model that's similar to pay-per-click, but we think it's a bit better and more meaningful to a startup.
Okay, sure.
And what SciTech has coined as pay-per-conversion.
Yeah. Okay.
Satyajit can elaborate a bit more on that.
Sure. So, and this is also one of the changes that we wanted to bring to the market is
Right.
typically any social platform or any advertisement platform that you go to today would charge you for the cost per click. Yes, that now they've started introducing conversion, but you would still get charged for the click. Someone
Yeah.
comes to your website, you pay,
Yeah.
right? Whether they converted a user or not, you converted a user or not, you still pay.
Yeah.
What we want to create is something beyond that, where a startup only pays when they get an actual user conversion. Through GitBoom, they can actually onboard a user straight into their platform. So we provide an integration so that they can actually hook on to our platform and get users signed up straight into their platform. And
Right, fantastic. So it's really based around a user pays model as opposed to with the pay-per-click, you're just paying for the damn click. You don't know what you're going to get, as we all know. But with this pay-for-conversion, you're only paying at the other end if the person converts.
Yeah, only when you get a qualified user.
So it's a really lean, very beautiful way of attacking this problem, yeah.
And we want to, so we haven't, I guess we should start working on the pricing because we're going to get to 1,000 at this rate very soon.
I think you'll get there by
We
the
already
time
crossed
this
it.
podcast is finished.
So we sort of talked about it a bit.
Yeah.
So what we want to get to is a very sort of palatable, low fee, something like 20 cents, let's say. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on it,
Okay.
but something around, let's say, 20 cents.
Okay.
And the reason we say that is because not all startups have backing. Not everybody's at some sort of costly incubator. Some people are just literally working out of their bedroom.
Yeah.
And as a startup, we're a startup.
Yep.
We've had multiple startups before. We know those funds are hard to come by. You have to pay for everything, for
Yeah.
hosting, for design, for this and that. So we want to make sure that even that kid working on an iPhone app in the bedroom
Yeah.
can get his first 1,000 users at 20 cents a pop. So it's like, oh yeah, I got $200, whatever. So that's going to get me my first 1,000 users. So something that's easily sort of costed into or factored into your sort of cost of starting a startup. So we don't want to definitely hurt the chances of any startup out there, but we need to definitely monetize and have the platform sort of be sustainable.
Absolutely, and I guess the other thing, I suppose what I'm thinking about is I know often at the Silicon Beach meetup, I can just hear the deals ringing in my ears. And that's one of the things I love about that meetup. I'm walking around talking to people and I can hear people saying, yeah, I'm a developer, I can do that for you. Or people saying, oh, look, I'm looking for somebody to do this. And they say, hey, look, we can work together on this. Like all this conversation goes on and I try and consume as much of it as I possibly can. I try and put myself in a role where I'm introducing people as much as I can to other people who can help them out.
Yeah.
I'm guessing also that you guys are getting a lot of offers on some levels, aren't you, from these startups, from people like me and other people that say, hey, look, what can we do together? So that must be pretty exciting, yeah?
Yeah, it's been an amazing experience, to be honest. Ever since we started, we are collaborating with many other startups out there, and we're trying to help them in best way we can, and they're helping us. And not only that, many of the worms on GitWorm at the moment are also applicable for other startups. So for instance, someone is giving away a 2-month Google Analytics analytics service.
Yeah.
Now that is very useful for another startup who are just coming about and they want to use it. So it is not just a startup is also an early adopter, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I noticed that. And so I guess the other thing is that once things go on, you're going to have other startups that are coming in there that are going, hey, guys, I know what else you could do within here. A service, so people would come to you and say, look, this is a service you don't provide, and you're thinking of providing it. I guess you're going to be clear enough to be able to say, well, yes, we are thinking about providing it, or no, we're not, we're definitely not going to do that. And then they might say to you, hey, well, we've got something that we think we can offer. And so there's another part to this ecosystem that's happening as well, isn't there?
There is. And we don't have plans for total startup domination. That to take everything from ideation all the way to mass market success. We definitely want to be in that, I wouldn't call it a niche, but in that phase of getting from 0 to 1,000, that early phase. And we feel that that's an important phase and we're very passionate about that phase. And at the same time, there are others out there who get you to 0. They help you get an idea to prototype and get to an MVP before you even start thinking about users. And then there are those people out there that then take you from 1,000 to the next group. They take you to connect you with Y Combinators or angel investors and things like that, that will launch you further. And we want to work with those people. We don't want to get into all that. That's not our core competency. We want to focus on this, but definitely want to work with the rest. We want the ecosystem to not be cutthroat and everybody attacking everybody. We want to work together. We want to create a workable ecosystem where everybody gets to participate and show their strengths and help startups with their unique value proposition.
Yeah, which it certainly does. And I suppose the other thing is that you're also probably getting lots of startups asking you questions as well, asking you for help and things that you don't provide. And of course, you must be laying in bed at night thinking, now, how can we provide that? Or who do we know that can provide that? Or how can we build this bridge as well? What's that like?
We do. So what we do is, as a part of the startup onboarding process, we ask questions to, do you need help with any of these? So things like advertising, marketing, design, content creation. And what the intent here was startups for startups. Now, if we have two startups, one providing a service that the other startup is looking for, that provides an opportunity for us to get the two together and kind of become that bridge, as you said, to help them both. So they're getting the services that they're looking for, plus the other startups are able to provide these services with an offer through GetWorm. So that's the second aspect to it.
Yeah, and it's gotten to that point where it used to be that old saying, there's an app for that. There's pretty much now a startup for that.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what you think of, there's a startup for that. So Sartek did actually go, it's not just something that we talked about. He created a LinkedIn group, Startups for Startups, where we've invited all of our startups on GetWorm to participate and join in a discussion and help other. So what is it you can help one startup with? What's like, well, we do online bookkeeping. Every startup, once it starts getting money, needs some sort of bookkeeping. Then other startups, it's like, well, I need some leads. Well, here's a startup that actually gets you leads for sales and stuff like that. So startups helping other startups whilst also offering their services.
Yeah, fantastic. And the other thing I thought is that I guess the really good thing is that you guys have kept to this very clear vision. You've kept to this very clear understanding of where you want to be.
Yeah.
And do you ever find, because I know at Silicon Beach, I have a lot of startups asking me to look at their startups and asking me for advice about who do I know in PR and who do I know in marketing and who do I know in this, and sometimes I've recommended people to you and for the platform, and then other times I recommend other people specifically for things. When you look at all the challenges that other startups have around you that you know of, and then you look at your own experience, what do you think appears to be the toughest one at the moment for people?
I'm tempted to say getting early adopters.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it is.
I think everyone has different problems, and yes, you're right, because we are in a part of the community. We actually hear a lot of feedback and questions around how do I do this? How do I for instance, we are here and the two partners are overseas.
Yeah, sure.
Now, how do you collaborate well when you're in a team together?
Yeah.
So some simple things like that. But yeah, you do get a lot of questions and discussion rather around that. Yeah.
The one of the common threads I've found is that there's this almost fear to do whatever it is they're doing. So they've come to a certain point, and whatever that point is, whether it's I've worked on my own and now I need to get a partner to help me out, or we've been working on this but we're not sure we need an investor, or whatever it might be, they get to a stage and there's almost this fear of not being ready for the next stage. They feel like we need to go to the next level, but we're not ready, and they feel that somebody out there has that level of knowledge and wisdom and guidance to guide them through.
Yeah.
But in reality, whilst there is experience and knowledge, that experience is quite often unique to that particular journey and that particular person.
Yeah.
Not everything is necessarily transferable. Just because something worked for one team doesn't mean it's automatically going to work for another. And what I found in me both answering those questions, but also asking them myself when I was a younger lad, is that
What do you mean you are like that?
Is that there is no substitute for just going and failing that old, and that's actually been coming up quite a bit now in a lot of startup meetups, is that don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And that fear of failure is holding a lot of these people back
That's true.
from whatever. So they at some point, and to make that transition to the next phase is that fear of failure.
That's right, and I think I know that it's banded around, fail fast, and I think on some intellectual level, everybody thinks they understand what that means. But emotionally, and I think there is emotion in startups. There's a lot of emotion in
There has to
startups. There does have to be, because it's driven mainly by passion. Really, when we think about it, we dig around. I think that kind of that freezing, and I've been through it myself, so I totally understand it, and I see it in all kinds of corners where they're doing really well and they freeze, they get to the freeze point. And that's where I think it is really interesting, because people don't actually get to the freeze point and then suddenly decide they're going to fail fast. They get to the freeze point and they freeze.
Yeah.
And I guess actually, getting onto a platform like yours, where you can kind of freeze midair and then have a bit of a chat with people on the LinkedIn group, chat to yourselves and other people, is a really good way of helping people get through that. Do you feel that that's the case, Eddie? The conversation is actually important.
And we've actually had literally direct questions. How can your platform help me go from A to B, whatever the A to B they explain?
Yeah.
So they will actually say, like, well, I've got this.
Yeah.
Can your platform help me do this?
Yeah. Okay.
And I said, well, the only way you're going to find out, create a worm on there, create a tantalizing enough worm, a perk, to attract the right kind of early adopter.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't get it right the first time, try again.
That's right, and I guess it's a good community to come in and fail on as well, isn't it? Because you're not testing your ideas out there with hundreds of your friends and everybody else. There's a little bit of a gate that can shield you from, that definitely didn't work.
Totally, and the thing is, these users on the platform, they know that you're starting up. They understand, they appreciate your beta products, your bugs. They are the actual one. They're the ones who would say, hey, how about you add this to this? To an extent that some of the guys actually found an issue with the JavaScript within our platform and said, hey, I found this. Actually send us code.
Yeah, fantastic.
As a comment.
Yeah.
And this is the power of just that community who embrace such things.
Yeah.
They're not, I'm not gonna invest my time in it because the product is buggy. They actually want to test the product when it's buggy and help it develop with the founders.
Yeah. It's funny you said, it reminds me of a story. I was talking to Paul the sound guy the other day about a small business, and I said to him, well, what the hell are they doing? And he said, well, they're still at the startup stage. And I was like, okay, I get it. Now I understand. Because I wasn't aware of that's where they were. I thought they were at that kind of later stage. And so it's interesting. Okay, so there's an element of passion and compassion to some extent within the community, which you must be very proud of.
Oh
yeah, absolutely. And that's why it was so critical to add that sort of conversation thread on the side, because we felt that much like I would liken it to a single player game versus a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
In a single player game, it's just you out there against the game.
Yeah.
In a multiplayer game, it's you actually talking to other people who are also interested in the same game and interested in the same goal. And having that conversation thread there takes you out of that sort of solitude of your own bedroom, of your own single user experience, into this sort of collaborative, open discussion. And like Santek said, early adopters, they don't go in with high expectations. They know where they are. They know who they are.
Yeah.
They know they're early adopters. So what we find with early adopters is they'll actually go in and defend your bugs to other people.
Yeah, right.
They'll be apologists. It's a version 1 app, so of course it's only going to have this, but they'll fix it. They're your evangelists, and that's why it's important to actually give them an area where they can actually participate, converse, and engage with startups.
Brilliant. And I know myself just from being on the platform from, I guess, the very early stages through to now, seeing this kind of global explosion in terms of the location of startups has been a fascinating journey for me in terms of GetWorm, and I guess obviously really, really exciting for you as well. And I suppose the other thing is that because you've got startups now from all over the world, you've got your own very unique group of people, your own very unique group of startups. You didn't go out and say, well, we'll have all the fintech peoples from South Australia, and we'll have all the these people, this group from Eastern Europe. You've had this great, where I guess other startups from around the world have spoken to other startups. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it is a global ecosystem, and as it turns out, I'm made some really good friends, and I can call them friends now because we talk to each other on a daily, weekly basis.
Sure.
And yeah, it's always good to know what they're doing, what we are doing, and it sort of becomes this. Yeah, I mean, to put it, I'm really proud of the network that we have established while building this platform, and we're still growing.
Yeah.
So that puts us in a happy place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to that point you made about well, it's not singularly focused on any particular trend in startups at the moment,
Sure.
like let's say fintech, and just trying to get fintech type users.
Yeah.
And in many ways that's actually a deliberate thing,
Yeah. Great.
because you almost everybody's an early adopter of something.
Yeah.
Actually, we're happy to say everybody is, not
Yeah.
almost. Everybody is an early
There's
adopter
only
of
about
something.
everyone.
And since this particular platform doesn't say your startup must be in this field, your startup can be in anything. You can start up a cookie baking business, and that means your early adopter are people who need cookies, and are actually good at validating are the cookies the right kind of cookies and things like that. So, and we can't. Yeah, well, it's just an example, but and you can't really target that. You can't say, well, no, you're not allowed to put that kind of startup on there. No, put the kind of startup you have on there, and we want every walk of life early adopter to go to the platform or to understand this is where they would find such things.
Brilliant. And when we look at the, I guess the timeline, because I suppose because things are changing very quickly for you guys, it's a good idea for startups and early adopters to get into the platform now, that's right, and really get you as you're going through, I suppose this is your second massive, well, it's probably your third or fourth massive growth in terms of
Yes, it is.
where you've come from.
Yeah, it is, and as we had the first launch page and we got some users, then we built the minimum viable product, and then we got some good surge of users coming in, and every time we do something new, we see a lot of growth coming in, and people actually appreciating, and actually sometimes people also telling that I didn't get that, I didn't get what you did with the homepage,
Right.
and we take that feedback and we go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how do we make it work? How do we make it for the users, not for us?
Yeah.
And it's been an awesome journey.
Okay.
I would say.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I guess because we're going to wrap up in a minute, what do you believe, apart from obviously getting users into platforms like yours, and there's not that many that have this totally unique setup which you built from the ground up that's very organic, what else do you think startups, from your experience, looking at the overall view of your ecosystem, what do you think is the next challenge that you're going to be able to provide for your startups and early adopters, apart from this conversion thing, which you've said, which is a new product that's coming on? What's next?
Well, that's so that's the monetization part. So that's so startups should be aware that now's a chance for them to get in under the free line.
Yeah, sure.
But some of the other things we're bringing on, there's a bunch of features we'll be bringing online throughout the year. But one of the ones we're actually quite excited about, and this is also comes back to that graph of development of technology or development of a business going from nothing and growing through that early adopter, early majority, late majority, and so on and so forth. And there's that chasm. There's that early chasm on anybody's journey from nothing to something. And it's about surviving that chasm. And quite often in startup lingo, that means pivoting.
Yeah. That's
Pivoting
right.
is something that a lot of people face. Now, there are very few go all the way through. They had the clear vision to start with, and they execute well. They have the right team. No need to pivot.
Yeah,
Most others should pivot.
sure.
Some don't when they should, and do it later. And sometimes it's not too late, and other times it is. So what we felt is to really address that kind of thing. You might have felt it was a good idea. You might have validated with friends and family, and you started on something, and now you're trying to get early adopters, but it's not quite happening.
Yeah.
So with that as a backdrop of that chasm, and surviving the chasm, and getting the right kind of early adopters, is this thing of focus groups. So what we want to bring in is
Right.
a community. Now that we're growing this community, we want to have the most avid, the most vocal, the most tuned in early adopters to become part of a focal group from which startups can now select and create their own focus group to help them specifically pivot or just fine tune. And in some cases, that fine tune might be 180 and
Yeah,
say, you know
sure.
what, you're right.
Yeah.
Now that we talked about it, we discussed it. You're the focus group. You're the most avid. Here's an opportunity to pivot, and here's an opportunity to actually engage with my early adopters to help me pivot in the right direction.
Wow, that sounds
Not in
fantastic.
isolation, not in a vacuum,
Yeah.
but in the platform.
Right, and so that's coming. We're going to see that this year, Eddie. Is
Yes.
that right? See, I've recorded this now. So.
Oh, it's
No, you got
public
the-
record now. It's public
Vinny
record.
Aditya, you got.
So by May, no, I'm kidding. No, we don't know what the actual date will be, but it's
No, but
definitely
we-
this year.
We definitely started on it, and we started rolling out our own focus groups. So GetWorm's focus group, the most engaging users on GetWorm platform.
Right.
We started
Okay.
having a chat with them on how would this look like. What would you like to see
Wow.
in this if you create this focus group?
Yeah.
So again, gone back to the drawing board with the minimum viable product,
Sure.
starting off with with first set of users and organically rolling it out to the others.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, great. So everybody needs to, I guess, whether or not you're a startup or you're an early adopter, you need to get onto getworm.com. I know that you've got a pretty active Twitter feed as well. And what's the other? And your LinkedIn group's a really important part of your ecosystem as well, isn't it?
Yes, the startups for
Yes,
startups.
startups for startups.
Startups for startups. So if people wanted to know more about the LinkedIn group as well, they can go into LinkedIn and search for.
Just look for startups for startups, and you would see a little red, orange.
Orange GetWorm.
Yeah, GetWorm logo. Not GetWorm logo. Actually, it's just a ball. So
Oh, just the outside,
yeah,
the
'cause
idea of it, yes.
we wanted to
Okay.
The startup.
create it as a generic community, even
Okay.
outside GetWorm. So you don't have to be on GetWorm to be a part of that group.
Okay.
As a startup founder, you can come in, bounce ideas with the other co-founders and founders of the world, and just get feedback.
All right, brilliant. And just to wrap up, I want to ask you if it's okay, because you've been very generous supporters of Melbourne Silicon Beach, and what did you feel, or what do you feel is a real benefit as being a sponsor of Melbourne Silicon Beach? If somebody was listening to the podcast or they come along, they think, I'm thinking about becoming a sponsor. What do you feel is the real value that it's given you in terms of being in that role?
Well, I'll let Sartek also have his view on this. My view is that we want to be seen as synonymous with startups.
Sure.
Not just in Melbourne, but Melbourne is our hometown,
Yeah.
at least for the half of the team. And so we want to be synonymous with, when people think startups, they think GetWorm.
Sure.
So it's all about just being in the minds and in the view of anybody that shows up at one of the meetups. And that community is growing. There's, as you said, the second largest group of,
I think now it's largest.
or largest
If not,
startup group in Melbourne. After this
After
podcast. And so we felt if we're gonna showcase anywhere, if we're gonna have just that logo placed anywhere, this is definitely one of the places, because in the mind we want people to immediately associate, amongst other sponsors, they want also to associate that GetWorm equals startups.
Yeah, fantastic.
And just to add to that, I think what Melbourne Silicon Beach is doing is phenomenal. What they've done over a period of time, and I think we've been with them when there were 3,000 users.
Yeah.
Within
More or less.
a course of year and a half.
Yeah.
Now it's what, 5,300.
Well, 5,700.
5,700. There you go. So it is a growing community, and hats off to Atula and to you for making that happen. And if there is any way, I think any startup could support you and not your initiative and being monthly meetups and so many. I get a lot of emails now. You're doing active events around coding for non-tech founders and focus events on different aspects for from doing your own PR to other things.
Yeah.
And we wanted to actively be a part of that community and help Silicon Beach in whichever way we could. And that's why we're very happy with sponsoring, and I think we're going to continue doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we've got some great stuff coming up, which I'm not allowed to tell you about, actually, believe it or not. But I will quietly tell you something after the podcast, which I think you'll be pretty excited about, which I think is going to be really good as well. And so, okay, look, that's great, guys. I'm just going to wrap up now, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming in. So you're here at the Crypto Studios, and you haven't been here before, which is our podcast studio. It's the first time, is that right?
Yeah, it is the first time, and I'm already in love with this place.
Yeah, okay.
The pool table, the barbecue, the atmosphere where the people are just working, having a blast. It's amazing. I think if anyone's looking for a co-working space, this beats any co-working space hands down.
Yeah, so that's right. So we're here at the Bitcoin Group co-working space, and Tool is often here. I often say he's pretending to work, because when I go out, he's near the barbecue somewhere, and he's out the back enjoying it, and so it's been a really good space for us. It's certainly, I guess, the home of Melbourne Silicon Beach now.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us. Great. It's been awesome to have you guys.
Thanks, Cullen.
Thanks.
So thanks everybody for joining Eddie and Sartek today, and of course you'll have all of the details on the website that we are putting together for Silicon Beach Radio, and it'll have the links through to their website as well. And as you know, you can search for the startup group, which is in LinkedIn as well, and you'll find all of their social media. But by all means, I'd say certainly get in there if you're a startup, get involved before things change, as Eddie was talking about earlier on in terms of the model. It's all free at the moment, so get in there now. And if you're an early adopter from anywhere in the world, of course, they've got this global reach now. It's a really exciting place to be. So thank you very much for joining us at siliconbeachradio.com.
You're welcome.